Hello and welcome to Giant Mess, a super sloppy sports and entertainment podcast that's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the real cinch, Neal Lynch. I'm a former fourth-string college quarterback and mediocre middle relief pitcher who earned himself a film and media studies degree. And now, I'm a single dad who loves to talk Giants football, Mets baseball, movies, TV, and comedy. On today's episode, it's the episode that everyone has been waiting for. Highly anticipated. And by everyone, I mean Mets fans. We're doing it, folks. Matt Damon is on the program, and he will actually speak to us. That's a callback to everyone who has ever listened all the way to the end of every episode I've had this year. It's been a long time coming, and we're finally getting into it. We're going to look at the biggest stories and storylines for each month of the Mets 2025 season. And so, without further ado, let us finally get it started up in here. All right. I've been promising Mets talk for a long time now. It's finally come to fruition. Finally get to get all my thoughts out. I'm going to do a little bit of an info dump right on your noggin. So break out the poncho, break out the umbrella, because it's going to be a lot. I was going to do a full preview for the 2025 season at the end of March, right before the season was supposed to kick off. And then by some kind of twist of fate, the gods, the baseball gods, stole my voice. No voice. Zero voice. I couldn't talk for a couple days, and then by the time I could talk, it's like, well, the season started, so what's the point? And then every week, every month, I'm taking notes, I'm watching games, ready to talk, something comes up. It gets bumped down the priority list. But there is no other higher priority right now for me. The Mets are the focus heading into these final few months of the season. We're entering the home stretch, and so it's critical that we get this episode out to remind people that, yes, I am still a New York Metros fan, and heading into the season, I was trying to temper my expectations. I think if you watched or listened to my episode about the Juan Soto signing, really trying to pull back. I needed a pullback coach. I think that was the analogy I mentioned, and I really did. The hype train was in full effect, and I said to myself, and I said to everyone who was willing to listen, this could be the best Mets lineup in franchise history. Lo and behold, now that we're officially entered August and we're 100-plus games into the season, not so much. That's due to a bunch of factors, a bunch of reasons. Some historic slumps, some just really poor seasons from guys that we thought were going to step up or at least continue their success from previous seasons. Looking at you, Francisco Alvarez, Mark Vientos, et cetera, et cetera. So heading into the season, the keys to success were going to be the pitching staff, the arms. And I was lauding David Stearns and his Uncle Stevie for their ability to create depth. In my mind, and through the first month of the season, this was one of the deeper rosters that we've had. I mean, you look at across the board, it's like there wasn't one guy that you pointed out and said, that's the weak link, that's the weak spot. I'm concerned when this person goes down, this person has to come in. It was the deepest team in my eyes in a long, long time, where it was like 1 through 9 in the lineup looks good, rotations deep, bullpens deep, and then in typical Mets fashion, they're like, oh yeah, you're deep? Well, let's just test that theory for real quick. We're just going to go through 2 or 3, even 4 of your starting rotation. We're going to go through your bullpen is going to be depleted. Like there was a stretch, I think it was in June, where it was like we're trotting guys out there that I have zero clue who they are, what they've done. You know, is this a prank? Like, where are the cameras? Because yeah, ultimately, like, put that to the test, put the depth to the test. Mendoza had to get super creative. Stearns had to get super creative. And for the most part, we have weathered the storm. Now, every team has their bumps and bruises throughout 162 games. How could you not? But man, it just feels like we've gone through a crazy number of players this season. And fortunately, luckily, that depth has had to come into play and is a big reason why we haven't completely tanked. Like, there were certainly, 2-week stretch, and we're not out of the weeds yet. The storm has not, it's subsided, but it's still there. It's still lingering. I still feel like that black cloud on the horizon. So we're not, we haven't come out of it completely unscathed yet, but man, there was some dark times there in June. So leading into the season, there were some predictions and questions that were top of mind for Mets fans, Mets faithful. So I thought I'd go over them. The prediction widely considered that the team MVP would be Juan Soto. Why wouldn't it be? Highest paid player in all baseball. Lucrative contract coming off his best season as a pro with the Yankees in 2024. Has that been the case so far? You'd probably find a very healthy contingent of Mets fans who would say no. But I'm here to say, you look at the numbers, and there's a strong case for Juan Soto. Now, does he show up in the biggest moments all the time? No. Does it look like he's having fun out there a lot of the time? No. But all that aside, you can see he makes the lineup more dangerous. He's still a threat. You still have opposing teams that are concerned about what he can do at the plate. He showed off his arm. He's a sneaky base stealer, which we'll get into. He has, there are certain metrics and categories you can look at, and you can say he's by far the best on the team. I'll pull it up right now, but you look at OPS plus, he's 150. So, Alonso's 143, McNeil's 132. And no one has walked more than him in all of Major League Baseball. 84 walks. It's almost more than double the next highest, on the Mets team at least, the next highest, which is P. Alonso with 49. So 84 walks. His OPS is at 868. I think, and it's justified. People want to see more. They want to see more out of him. They're expecting what he provided in 2024. Is it quite at that level? People were predicting that he's going to have the best season of his career, and it's not quite matching up or projecting to be that. It's still a good season, but people want the best season. I don't think he's going to come close to what he did with the Yankees in 2024. My guess is that it will be on par with, if not slightly better than, his 2021 season with the Nationals. So there were 4 intriguing questions for the Mets going into the season. How good could Soto be? The writer for this article thought that he could surpass his 41 home runs and 989 OPS with the Yankees. Is he on pace to do that? Not quite, but he could go on a tear. Now, he just got injured. He fouled the ball off his foot, had a contusion, aka bruise on his footsie there. But it doesn't seem to be affecting him that much. I can't say the same for Lindor and his toe. I think that's been a lingering issue that's been bothering him. Alonso's got that hand that he got hit on, that he had to sit for a game. So it's like, they're bumps and bruises. And you got to play through them, and not just play through them, but you have to play to a level that is going to help your ball club win games. And that's what the recent struggles have been around that, right? they're calling them the Fab Four, which I'm not crazy in love with. You can't go with the core four because that's the Yankees from the late 90s, early 2000s. Fab Four play on the Fab Five from the University of Michigan with Weber and Rose and all them. Howard. So I'm not in love with the Fab Four, but if that's like a good placeholder for now. So the Fab Four: Nimmo, Alonso, Soto, Lindor. To have all four of them struggle at the same time, but still be in games, is somewhat encouraging. We're not going to win a lot of games that way, and so you're kind of hoping that this June, July kind of lull is a detox period. Just get it out of your system, because we need all of you clicking when it comes down to September and into the playoffs. If we make the playoffs, it's not such a sure thing, even with all the acquisitions at the trade deadline. So, Soto could possibly just turn it on. It's one of those, you look at the NBA. The NBA is a long season, 80 some odd games. A lot of guys tend to coast the first half of the season. They play good enough, and then they really turn it on come around playoff time. You saw it last season with the Mets with respect to Lindor. I know Alonso kind of limped into the postseason, but Lindor was kind of carried the team over the last week or so. And so that's the hope for Soto, is that, because the schedule is not favorable for us down the stretch. We'll get into that in a little bit. But next intriguing question: can Edwin Diaz's velocity rebound? Yes. Does that mean we still have the utmost trust in him? No. This guy, man, I would say with the exception of like a month or so in 2022, every time he comes in, it's a frickin' roller coaster. It's like we do not know what we're going to get. To say that he's dependable and reliable, and the numbers would lead you to believe, oh, what are you talking about, Neal? Look at his numbers. And it's like, yes. But then you watch the games, and it's like you're holding your breath. You're clutching your pearls. You're digging your nails into your seat, into your couch. You're grinding teeth. You're clenching jaws. You're clenching your beehole. The guy who, to say that you have 100% confidence in him, I don't. And you just kind of buckle up and enjoy the ride, I guess, as much as you can. So the velocity has rebounded. I'm not in love with a lot of his location. His accuracy is kind of all over the place, but part of me thinks that plays into his success and contributes to his success. The fact that he can be all over the place and the batter has zero clue where he's going with the ball can be scary and intimidating, and I think it plays in his favor sometimes. So, but if you have maybe a more veteran team like the Dodgers, I don't know if I would say the Phillies, because they have a tendency to chase, but if you have a more disciplined lineup, they'll just sit back and be like, oh, this is one of those days for Diaz. We can just sit back and relax because we know that he's not going to be able to, attack the strike zone. Another big question: is this Clay Holmes transition going to work? That was a big question mark heading into the season. He hadn't been a starter in seasons. So would he be able to give the Mets enough quality outings, enough innings pitched? Would he be able to last a full season? And I'm here to tell you, spoiler alert, he's done pretty well. Now, across the board, with the exception of David Peterson, Mets pitchers have not been able to get into the sixth inning. I mean, much less the fifth inning. I mean, there was a period where we were struggling to get out of the fourth inning. So, across the board, the Mets rotation has not, it's been injured. But when we were going through that really tough time in June and that losing that slump, it was like your best pitchers are down with injuries. The guys that are coming up and filling in are either, bullpen guys that are openers, or, guys from the minors that they're plucking from the minors that they just need someone to give them some kind of effort so that they're not taxing the bullpen, which the bullpen was completely taxed. Went from one of the best bullpens in the league earlier on to one of the worst in June and into July. But I would say that so far, barring anything crazy happening down the stretch, that it's been a success. Clay, you take away Peterson, Clay's probably your second best pitcher. And when I say best, I mean dependable. Guy has not been hurt. He gives you starts. Are they like, they're not Cy Young caliber starts by any means, but they're not atrocious. It's like he's giving you about 5 innings of pitching that keeps you in the ball game. You're not getting blown out, because that was the case during that slump in June, July, where it's like, I'm sorry, but as an offense, maybe 1 or 2 games you can have the mindset that you're going to come back and, the pressure's not going to get to you when you get down 5-0 in the first, 4-0 in the first 3 or 4 innings. You're down by, you're going to need more than 1 inning to get back in the game. When you're down by 4+ runs in the first 3 or 4 innings, 5+ runs in the first 4 innings, 3 or 4 innings, you get down big early, game after game after game. That 3rd or 4th game it happens, I'm sorry, you're a human. That's just going to have an effect on you. It's going to have an impact on you. Like, shit, we're down again? We're in this hole again? So maybe 1 game, not a big deal. 2 games, 3 is a trend. And 4 is a problem. 5 is a catastrophe. So that's the situation we got ourselves into a bunch of times, and it was related to the starting pitching. And you could say the same about the bullpen in those situations as well. Bullpen can save you once or twice. To expect them to save you 3 times in a row, 4 times in a row, you can't do it. You're gonna, and then we went through a ton of arms. I still don't know who Lovelady is. Great name, but like, where the hell did that guy come from? So, and the guys that were giving us really quality outings in April and in May out of the bullpen got hurt or lost for the season. So, but I would say ultimately, scary to think about, huge risk to think that Clay Holmes can go from a closer reliever to a starter, but I'd say he's done a pretty good job so far. Will the rest of the rotation be strong enough? Well, it says here neither Tyler McGill or David Peterson have ever completed full seasons in a big league rotation. Tyler McGill is like Mr. April. I don't know that you can find a better April pitcher than Tyler McGill. The other months of the season, not so great. He eventually got hurt, and I don't know what his timeline is for coming back. But David Peterson, since the Mets have leaned more heavily on him to be a major part of the rotation in like the latter half of 2024 into this season, and this season so far, he's our ace. Did anyone think that coming into the season? We thought, oh, it's a really great story. He's really shown up in big spots. Ultimately, he had a bad outing or 2 against the Dodgers in that LCS, but oh my God, All-Star, first time ever All-Star. And he's, if you want to say, I would think it was between Manaea and Senga to be your ace coming into the season. Manaea's hurt. His debut is delayed a long time. Senga is great when he's healthy, but keeps getting hurt. So as far as your ace, I think Peterson's your ace and Holmes is your 2 right now. Now, Manaea has shown some promise. Senga's been kind of So Peterson's been huge, but Clay Holmes, pretty good addition, and has paid off so far. Brendan Sproat, the Sproat Goat, and Blade Tidwell were the 2 guys, the 2 pitchers that we were looking at to possibly come up and be part of the rotation. We got to see Blade Tidwell. Rocky start, not so great outing. His first appearance, second appearance was better, and then they ultimately traded him, which was disappointing. But I think that they have Nolan McLean is another young arm prospect that has been getting some buzz lately. So will we see Sproat maybe like a September call-up? That would be pretty cool. McLean, is that going to happen this season? I don't know. It depends on like how things, never say never with the arms on our team, because we just keep going through arms. So happy that we re-signed Mania. That was a Christmas gift from the heavens. Very excited about that. And then, of course, has the injuries and it kind of puts a damper on everything. But good to see that he's kind of getting back into form. His most recent start, wheels started to come off a little bit in that last inning, and then he was climbing up. His pitch limit is like 80, 85. And you could see coming off the mound, he wanted one more inning. Mendoza shut it down. And I agree with Mendoza. I don't think we're in desperation mode where we need Mania to go another inning and possibly ruin all the progress that he's made. And I mean, that long journey of coming back from his injury, like, why ruin that over a game that, every game's must win. I get it. But when, we still got 2 months left, like, solid outing. Let's go to our bullpen. And of course the bullpen couldn't hold up, but good to see that he feels strong enough to go another inning. I think that's the encouraging sign there. And I know he's probably upset that he can go another inning, but smart move by Mendoza. Mendoza hasn't made all the right moves this season. What manager does? I mean, even with Showalter, you could see it from time to time. And there have been a couple of decisions that Mendoza has made that have cost us games. Not a ton, but there's been probably a handful, I'd say, that where you could put it on Mendoza, where it's like, shouldn't have kept him in or should have pulled the plug. But, I think, he didn't win Manager of the Year last year, which was bullshit. Given all the hardships and challenges that he's gone through this season, would be nice. I don't know. I just feel like he's kept the ship upright through a very tumultuous time period. So, obviously if the Mets miss the playoffs, that's going to be rough. But they win the division, I think you gotta put him into consideration. We also re-signed Ryan Stanek, which I didn't. It kind of flew under the radar. I feel like it didn't get a lot of love, didn't get a lot of attention or buzz, but he's one of my favorite guys on the team. And it's partly, yes, it's part of the name, it's partly the hair. But when that guy is on, my God, watching him pitch just fires me up. Now, there are times where there have been 2 or 3 meltdowns where it's just like, fuck, we had the lead, now we're losing and we lose the game. But for the most part, I love how he dials it up. I love after a big strikeout, he gives the I love you hand gesture. So really happy to have him back. And then we re-signed Alonso. I don't know what the fuck took so long there. I don't know why it took so long. Maybe it really came down to Alonso's agent trying to play hardball. I think he switched agents. But, we got him on a pretty awesome deal. Who's to say what happens? I think it was 3 years, 90 mil? So it's not the long-term contract he was hoping for. And given his performance, at least earlier on in the season, and then seeing what Vlad Guerrero signed for, which was like 14 million years. A lot of deferrals on that one. 14 years, 500 million. Alonso's looking at that and being like, huh? Uncle Stevie, I can play until I'm 55, right? I don't know that we're going to be handing him that kind of deal, but there's got to be more of a pitch to Alonso to say, hey, man, you were in the dugout watching David Wright get his number retired. You have now are basically in almost every major statistical category offensively. You're top 5, top 3. Why jeopardize and risk all that for what? A couple? I mean, there comes a point where like $1 million, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, is that really going to make you that much happier or secure your future more or what? Versus legacy and winning a championship for a franchise that has been starving for a title. For a lot of guys, I don't think that would be a factor. For Alonso, I think it is. So I'm really happy we brought him back, and he's rewarded for the most part. I know he's been going through some downs of late, but he's rewarded the team and the fan base with some stellar performance. To the people and the fans who did not want to bring him back, what the fuck is your problem? What are you thinking, dude? Are there better first basemen out there? Yes. Are there better hitters, all-around hitters? Yes. But that's not, I mean, okay. You could say that about Lindor. I mean, this season you could say that about Soto. You could say it about a lot of people. But I just love the guy. He's a big goof. He's a doofus, and I love him. He's a goofball. He's a goofy goober. But I love him. And I don't understand the hate for him. You know? You can't, I mean, like, I don't know. So glad to have him back. There were 4 games in March, but I'm lumping it into the April 2025 recap. One of the best starts in franchise history. One of the best Aprils in franchise history. Clay Holmes matched the team high, double-digit strikeouts during an April 8th win against the Marlins. We ended up going 21-10 to start the season. I believe that was the 3rd best start to a season behind the 86 Mets and the 88 Mets. 86 Mets, World Series title. 88 Mets lost the Dodgers in the LCS, but goddamn, if they beat the Dodgers there, I think they go on to win the World Series. So very fortuitous. Of course, I always go back and think about the hot start we got in 2018. And I think we started 11-1, which was the best start in franchise history, and then immediately shit the bed the rest of the season. So, we also had a really poor start last season, under 500 for majority of the first 60 or so games, and then turned it on. So, I've mentioned this before, the Braves, when they went to the World Series and won, they had a horrible start. So, good start. It doesn't necessarily guarantee you a playoff spot or a World Series win, but it certainly helps. And it's specifically helped this season to weather the storm in the June swoon. Because if you don't go 21-10, 21-9 to kick off the season, and we go through what we did in June into July, I mean, we're like probably below the Marlins, who have been resurgent lately. And we're probably hovering around 500, if not below 500. And I don't know that we're buyers at the deadline. I assume we would be, just because it's the New York market and we want competitive baseball. And we never say die. Never know when to give up. So we'd still probably be buyers. But would players be as apt to want to go to a team that's struggling? Is it going to be more like the 2021 season, which we'll get into that friggin' trade later? We had the best rotation in baseball in April at 2.22 ERA with Senga, McGill, Peterson, Griffin, Canning, and Clay Holmes. Joe DeMayo had a great tweet on April 15th at PSL2 Flushing, said the law firm of Stanek, Kranick, and Garrett have combined for a 0.00 ERA this year for the Mets. 22 innings pitched, 7 hits, 0 runs, 5 walks, 22 Ks. It's the best bullpen, and we also had the best bullpen ERA overall at 1.15. So to me, April was like, I don't think you could feel any better as a Mets fan. We couldn't have gotten off to a better start. And it got to the point where it was like, at first it was hard to adjust. It was a little bit, you're still uneasy. You're a Mets fan. If you're a lifelong Mets fan, rarely do you feel comfortable. Right? So it was a weird feeling at first. Like, whoa, okay, so we just win games. We get clutch hits. Our bullpen's shut down. Our starters are lights out. Like, what? Across the board? Offense, defense, pitching. Like, we're fielding. What? Like, we're just coming up big and everything's going our way? Well, the other shoe has to drop, and sure enough, it did. But I was like, and then I got into a period, late April, early May, where I was just like, oh, I'm not worried. Me worry? I'm not worried. Like, we have this in the bag. This is just who we are now. And of course, that all changed with a bunch of injuries, but it was a good feeling for a little bit there. It was like there was just no panic, no worry, no concern. The heart rate never got elevated because it was just like, yeah, we'll figure out a way to win. Those were the days. April 16th, Matthew Bronstein, he tweeted, here's a list of players with 10 plus walks, 10 or more extra base hits, and 20 or more RBIs in the team's first 17 games of a season since 2015, so dating back 10 seasons. Bryce Harper did it twice, Cody Bellinger once in 2019, Christian Yelich in 2019, Aaron Judge this season, and then Peter Morgan Alonso this season. So, those are some big names right there. Alonso has always been a great Met, but it's very rare that he kind of gets the love on a league-wide level. So to be mentioned with the Bryce Harpers and the Aaron Judges, I think is great for Pete. Early on the season, we went to Sacramento to play the Athletics. I had mentioned this briefly in my April recap for another episode. And center fielder Jose Siri, who's like not like a major pickup in the offseason, but a pretty big, someone to step in for the loss of Harrison Bader. Someone that, you have Tyrone Taylor, who could be a good platoon piece with Tyrone Taylor. He ends up fracturing his left tibia by fouling a ball off his shin. And at the time, the booth didn't make a huge deal out of it. I didn't think it was a big deal. We have not seen him since. I have not heard his name since. I had to look it up. I was like, what is going on with Jose Siri? And he's expected to be back, according to Mendoza, but has not been doing much. I mean, tick-tock, dude. We got like less than 60 games left. 2 months left in the season. You kind of, in terms of making the postseason roster, it's, and given what they did at the trade deadline with picking up Cedric Mullins, I don't think it's not looking good for Siri. But what a shit show watching them, that training staff and the grounds crew, personnel, operations, stadium operations, trying to get Siri off the field. Whoa, dude. The A's are playing in a minor league ballpark, and it shows. And even Luis Severino, who turned down the qualifying offer from the Mets and ended up signing with the A's and on a big contract for the A's, their biggest contract, has come out and said, yeah, like, it's hard to pitch in that stadium. You look at his numbers on the road versus at home. His road numbers are just like electric. 2.27 ERA, winning record, across the board good. You look at his performance at home in Sacramento at the minor league, and it's like 6 or 7 ERA. So he's like, yeah, you have to have the right mindset and the mentality, and it definitely has an effect on us. You're playing in a minor league ball stadium, and psychologically you feel like you're pitching in a spring training game. So that's tough to hear. And I know that the Oakland Brass are not happy about it, and they might just turn, there was, I don't even know if he got traded, but there was talk about him being shipped out. Not even one season into his contract, and he gets shipped out. It was a 3-year deal, so it's not like a mega contract, but still, to dole out the money they did for an organization like that's kind of in transition, and you hand out that kind of money, lucrative deal, and then to bail on it because the guy says he doesn't like playing in a minor league stadium. It's like, I don't know. Be better, Athletics. So, but it was tough watching them trying to get Siri out of the stadium just to get looked at. It's like they open up the fence in center field and they have him on the cart, but then the cart can't go over the thing. So then he has to get off the cart and they have to like carry him over. It was just, oh boy, that was tough. Anyway, Francisco Lindor hit his first walk-off home run as a Met on April 18th against the Cardinals. Kind of weird to think about. He's been a Met since 2021. So we're looking at he's in his 4th or 5th season now. To not hit a walk-off home run, kind of weird. might catch some people off guard. It caught me off guard, and it's because you think about the big home run against the Braves in game 161 of last season in 2024. That was an away game, so that's not a walk-off. The grand slam against the Phillies in the NLDS, that was at home, but I believe that was in the bottom of the 8th, not in the 9th, so that's not a walk-off. He's had some walk-off hits for sure, but this was the first walk-off home run. So, and he, we'll get into it in a little bit, but he's had a lot of slow starts, and every season he's been with the Mets, he's started off slow every season. And so to have this season where he comes on and is playing really great ball to kick off the season was good to see. On April 23rd, the Mets staged an epic 6-run ninth inning rally to force extra innings against the Phillies and won in the 10th. Some clutch hitting by Starling Marte, driving in the winning run, which was great, especially against Philly. Brandon Nimmo had a grand slam on April 20th against the Nats, powering a dominant 15-0 Mets win. He tied the Mets record for 9 RBIs in the series finale against the Nationals and did it in a span of 3 innings. Ha-cha-cha. Brandon Nimmo. He's going through it right now. I mean, he's on the struggle bus for sure right now, but it's like if they could just, when all 4 are coming up empty and falling short, it is tough to watch. It's like, fuck, how can a lineup this powerful and this strong just collectively shut down? Did you guys have a blood oath? Is there some kind of agreement under the table that I'm not aware of? Anyway, through 23 games, Peter Alonso had 24 RBIs. That's too shy of the franchise record for March and April. Jeff Kent had, in 1994, got off to a hot start, and he's tops in that category, tied with Pete Alonso in his rookie season in 2019. Alonso was having the best April of his career, off to a .333 start, a 1,097 OPS, 6 home runs, and 11 doubles. And the Mets completed the second perfect homestand of at least 7 games in franchise history. And the last time they did that, you take a frickin' wild guess what happened. Made it to the World Series. So Baseball Reference has this really cool, if you're a nerd, stat nerd, baseball nerd, who gets off on the numbies, this is cool. I like this. The Baseball Reference has a metric or stat called Championship Level Index. And so if you had 1 is the average, 1.0 is the average. And then if you look at, if it's above 1, that's above average importance. If it's below 1, not so important. So there was a stretch, games 23 through 29, so a week's worth of games against the Phillies and Nationals that were all above 1, so very above average importance as far as championship level index goes. We got the sweep of the Phillies, which was sweet, at home with a walk-off win to cap it off, to go up 5 games in the division, bring our record to 18-7. And then we took 2 of 4 from the Nationals, which was tough. You lost a walk-off, lost 2 walk-offs in that period. So there was potential to have a sweep of the Nats and the Phillies, 7-game winning streak. My God, as we get closer to the postseason now, and we look back at some games that, man, you would have liked to have them back, would have liked to have those wins. I think those 2, at least one of those, getting one of those back from the Nats would have been nice. But, finished April in a fairly good spot, up big. And sure enough, we needed that cushion. It turns out, we desperately needed to get off to that start because of what happened afterwards. Reed Garrett hadn't allowed an earned run in any of his 13 outings in the beginning of the season. And going back further, he had not allowed an earned run in 26 of his past 27 games, dating back to August 22 of 2024, stretch during which he had a 1.5 ERA, 4 earned runs over 24 innings with 8 walks and 27 strikeouts. So there was talk about him possibly getting an all-star nod, which would have been sweet, but tough. I mean, I feel like they have to give a lot of closers their flowers at all-star time, so you don't see a lot of middle relievers getting their shine during that time. So it was a long shot. Was he deserving? Probably, but, understandable. And then Edwin Diaz hadn't blown any saves in the month of April, 7 for 7, but was walking a career-high 5.3 batters per 9. And every number on his stat line was the second worst of his career behind 2019. Do you remember 2019? Dear God. That was a tough season. And I think if you go back and listen to a lot of the episodes that I had out there in 2019 about the Metros, it was just me absolutely dropping the hammer on Edwin Diaz, costing us game after game after game. And if he had just not blown half the saves that he did, I think we're in the postseason. So it's been a very up and down relationship with Edwin Diaz. And, and it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the episode. Okay, his numbers might look good on the surface level, but you dig deep and you see the walks are up, and he's not where he was in 2022, where it was he was the best reliever in baseball. So at the end of April, we talked about Lindor's slow starts. Let's put some numbers to it. In 2024, he was slashing 193, 268, 348 as late in the season as May 20th. So that was tough to swallow. Batting below the Mendoza line and OPS under 400. 2023, he was slashing 211, 291, 411 as late as June 17th. In 2021, he was slashing 194, 292, 303 on June 1st. So historically gets off to slow starts, but obviously picks it up as the season goes on. He's had in his Mets tenure, he's had some of the longest 0 for streaks, 0-4, so 0-4, 20, 0 for 16, 0 for 25. He's had some of those longest 0 for streaks in Mets history, including an 0 for 24 spell in last April. Is that the case this year? No. This April, completely different. 339 average, 954 OPS, 6 ding-dongs, 15 ribbies, 22 runs, 4 doubles, 2 stolen bases. So it was good to see him get off to a hot start, so that takes some of the pressure off of Soto, because Soto struggled. Not immensely, but people want results. You hand someone that much money, they want instant results. They want you to be the best. You're the highest paid, well, then you should be the best player in all baseball. And it's that's not. I mean, I've talked about this ad nauseum, broken record, but rarely do you see any player play up to their contract. It's very rare. So, given and Soto joins not a long list, but joins a list of big acquisitions like a Mike Piazza, like a Lindor, like a Beltran, that struggle in their first season. They're not playing up to what the expectation level is for them. Not a truly horrendous season by any means, but we wanted more, we expected more. So Soto's kind of following in their footsteps, not to the degree that they had. I think he's playing slightly better than a lot of other Mets, big name Mets in their first season, but so it was good to see Lindor step it up, as Soto gets adjusted and tries to find his way on the ball club. The team posted a 2.60 ERA that ranked as the best in baseball by a significant margin. And oh man, I don't know that. And I should have dug into this more, but I don't know if I've ever seen another team that has had the best start to a season, like the best month in terms of a category like ERA, and also the worst month in that same exact stat in the same season. You know what I mean? We had the best ERA in April, we had the worst ERA in June. Has that ever happened? I don't know. The starting rotation allowed 4 or fewer runs in each of their first 30 games, extending an unprecedented streak, and it did not continue for long after that. So I talked about hot starts. I talked about the 86 and 88 Mets. The 86 Mets Got off to a 21-6 start, which was a 778 winning percentage, and that's been the franchise standard for excellence. 88 Mets got off to a 20-7 start. That's a 741 percentage. Places them second. And then you have the 2025 Mets, who started off 21-10, 19-8, ranks third. So to have that kind of start, you missed the playoffs this season. That has to top what happened in 07 and 08, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. So far, we're neck and neck with the Phillies. The Phillies have had their struggles. The Dodgers have gone through it. I mean, even when you're looking at the American League, the Yankees have been have had their times where it's like they're looking like they're falling apart. So I think most teams have that period in the season. It's just all about how you respond and showing a resilience. And if there's one thing you can say about this Mets team, I think we're one of the more resilient ball clubs and franchises. And we have been for as long as Alonso has been on the team since 2019. It feels like they more times than not we can pull ourselves out of it. So that was April. Yeah, so that's it for this episode. In terms of future Mets content, future Mets episodes, we're going to look at the Mets all-quarter century team. So it's the best Mets team. So it's the Mets team of the 2000s, the 21st century, through 25 years, from 2000 to 2025. Who's our Mets team? Looking at each position there. We're also going to try and rank the Athletic put out like the best MLB's 25 best games of the 2000s, which I'm not like crazy about their list. The Mets had 2 slots on that list, which very interesting, the games that they chose over 25 years. And then we're going to look at, that inspired me to take a look at the 25 best New York Mets games of the 2000s. But for now, you can expect in some future episodes, we got a review of the movie Sinners. We got a review of the movie Jurassic World Rebirth. We got a review of the movie Superman. We got a review of the movie Fantastic Four, First Steps. So, and by the time I'm done with all that, I'm going down to South Carolina tomorrow. Jesus. And that we'll be down there for a week. So probably no new content or episodes coming out during that week. Gonna spend some quality QT with the fam. And then come back, and I have that next week pretty much to myself. So I'll be cranking out some movie reviews there. And then we start to get into the nitty-gritty with the Mets. I have no intention of talking about training camp for the Giants, although Abdul Carter does make me excited. And I've heard good things about Russell Wilson. So lots of stuff on the horizon. But for now, grazie. Thanks for listening. And thank you for watching. And we'll talk to you soon. Adios, muchachos.